Now, ever since Netflix dropped their series known as With Love, Meghan back in early March, we already know that the drama and the ongoing ratings disaster for this series continues, and we already know that Meghan Markle is already going into damage control mode over this series, much like Rachel Zegler has been trying to do with Snow White. This is very ironic because they are both Rachels at the same exact time, but we already know that there's a lot of things going on here between herself, Netflix CEO Greg Peters, the many executives over there that tried to warn the board of directors way ahead of time that this series was not going to work in the long run, and that in the end it would taint the image of Netflix. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new, and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. So one thing about Meghan Markle is that she keeps on going on about With Love, Meghan Season 2, quote unquote, and the reason why I'm putting up air quotes right now is that it's really not a Season 2. The best way to really define this is that it's nothing more than With Love, Meghan Season 1 Part 2, or Season 1.5, because all 16 episodes were shot all together, with some additional filming, by the way, planned for this June, but really it's nothing more than dividing Season 1 into two parts, and they're just calling it Season 2 to make the series sound like it's more successful than it really is. Now, we already know that Meghan Markle is saying some of the most ridiculous things out there in reference to this series on Netflix and exactly what looms for the show by this fall, because that's when Season 2, quote-unquote, drops on Netflix. Let's get into this, shall we? Now, one thing is for certain is that we know that Meghan Markle, it doesn't really take criticism well. She gets very defensive. She always tries to make a point about sexism, misogyny, and bigotry and all that nonsense that keeps coming out of her mouth. However, with, of course, the Meghan Markle backlash still leading to floods of Netflix customers canceling their accounts with the streaming platform, one significant development going on now involves more to do with more drama related to Meghan Markle and the growing issues connected to With Love, Meghan Season 2. Now, Meghan Markle recently delivered the following, dropping the worst news yet for Season 2. Going into Season 2, we felt we had to course correct one narrative that we didn't really press too hard on in Season 1. We really had to shine a light on the issues related to sexism, misogyny, and bigotry happening not just in the US, but around the entire globe. And I think looking at all the criticism toward me as a person, I think this needed to also be addressed in our upcoming season. So we are incorporating the public criticism that I and many others find to be very unfair into the story and into the great series. What better way to handle criticism, I say, is to insert it into your own story, and then set the record straight and share your side of your views against the same toxic criticism in the show. I think that's a great road to success. Again, it's funny how everyone keeps calling me Meghan Markle. I'm Sussex now, okay? Haha. But yes, the unfair criticism will be addressed, and we have so many surprise cameos that I think critics are obviously going to have an issue with. But you have to face the noise. You have to stand up to that when you are passionate about something. The best way to illustrate your hard work is in a series like this. Coming what I love to do, of course, around the house, my taste in fashion and activities will also be explored, and I think everyone is in for a treat. That's all I really have to say. But some cameos we have planned, we know are going to create public outrage. But you have to remember that this is coming from a small minority of those on social media making all of that noise. So many actors and actresses that gained so much criticism are misunderstood, and we are more than excited to explore that in Season 2. Now guys, let me just stop here about what she's alluding to. She's obviously alluding to some of the actors that we talked about that are in the roster of coming on board for the additional filming this June for Season 2, or as I like to call it, Season 1.5. And also she's incorporating some politicians into the mix for With Love, Meghan Season 2. We already know that they're trying to throw in Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris. They have agreed to actually make short cameos on With Love, Meghan, and vice versa. We know that Netflix is all for it too. And I think that we all know why. We all know that they are trying to gain some kind of popularity. They are trying to gain some traction for the 2028 election. But what's really interesting here has more to do with the fact that Meghan is confirming that she's going to be bringing up the criticism surrounding her into the actual show itself. And actually, pretty much getting very defensive like that to the point you have to actually drag the criticism into a show. I think that speaks volumes. I think it tells you everything that you need to know about Meghan Markle and how she truly is narcissistic in nature. This is basically her way of handling criticism by basically, striking back and putting it into her own show and twisting and spinning things around. Now again, like I've said before in the past, we know that this series is a complete failure, to the point that they had to disguise Season 1 Part 2 as a Season 2. And that was the biggest red flag of all, but this is the next red flag, to the point that you have Meghan Markle, like I say, confirming that she's going to be talking about the criticism surrounding her and everything else going on in her life. Now, moving onwards, she goes on to continue, I thought it was also important to address those claims against me that I'm not authentic, or that I'm not my authentic self on camera or in public. I thought, yeah, how we could incorporate those arguments into the show, and that was a major question, and so we did. And I think many are going to be surprised about what we did there in the later half of Season 2. Sometimes you have to not care what anyone says about you, because those making noise and those that are very opinionated just don't matter in this superficial world that we all live in. Remember, I'm Sussex now, and my brand, as ever, I think will be my greatest legacy, since it's something I am so passionate about. But yeah, we have endless cameos coming your way for the second season, and some are really going to divide people, but sometimes you have to embrace a division, to make bold choices to create something that is going to be talked about through word of mouth, either for good or worse. It's still something that is being discussed, and that's how show business essentially works. So again, I mean, she's going on about how she doesn't care if it creates good or bad word of mouth when it comes to some of the bold decisions that she made regarding how she dragged some of her own personal issues into the show, such as the criticism and how so many call her inauthentic and fake and phony. That's going to be addressed in Season 2 directly to the viewers. And look, this is all just nothing more than, kind of sending a direct message to whatever supporters that she has left. That's basically what they're catering to, and it really, I think, is going to tank Season 1.5 to a different degree than we already saw with the first one that debuted in March. And look, at the same exact time, Netflix CEO Greg Peters, he tried to warn the board of directors ahead of time about what they were doing here. It seems like that the half of the board members over at Netflix, they still have no clue what they're doing. They don't even care anymore. They're just giving up on this thing. They don't care how much negative press it gets from the trades or from those on social media. They just want to get past with Love Meghan and call it quits and then focus on other projects. It's very ironic, like I said. Both Meghan Markle and Rachel Zegler, they're both Rachels, and they're both dealing with a similar situation right now, where both the companies that they represent, they want to get past a specific project. They want to get that actual project out of the news cycle. Disney dealing with Snow White, Netflix dealing with Love Meghan. It's really quite a strange series of events that are happening in, last month and now in April. But overall, this is a very ongoing issue that Meghan Markle is dealing with. The fact that you have a lot of studio politics going on right now within Netflix. There's a lot of a tug-of-war situation essentially happening between executives, between the board members, etc., etc. But I would like to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.